Hi, this is Chris Richards, the Eclectic Radical, and this is the first Eclectic Radical live stream. So thanks for joining me. I've got a few things I want to talk about today, but the big one is coronavirus, which is not going away anytime soon, is it? And which is going to hit 250,000 deaths sometimes this week. So let's just start with the most depressing thing we can think of. How's that sound? So, yeah, sometime this week we're gonna go past 250,000 coronavirus deaths, 250,000. There are going to be people who are going to blame that on folks and who are going to tell you that you should blame that on folks. There are lots of people who actually deserve part of that blame, though. So don't be too quick to believe one person who says you should blame it all on one person. Best example I can think of is everybody and their cousin is going to be telling you to blame coronavirus on Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump certainly deserves a lot of blame, and nobody should be letting him off the hook for it. At the same time, Donald Trump did not make decisions about when to close schools in New York City. Bill de Blasio did that. Donald Trump is not making decisions about letting nursing homes off the hook for their liability in letting patients get sick with and die of coronavirus. And Donald Trump didn't tell those folks to come in to work sick if they worked at those nursing homes, which is why those nursing homes need those liability shields that Governor Cuomo wants to give them. So there's plenty of blame to go around, folks. Democratic governors have a lot of blame on their shoulders too. Here in Oregon, our governor, Kate Brown, didn't want to do anything until she got pushed. And then she closed everything down, which was good because we were just starting to hit our big spike when she closed everything down. And then she opened it up just as we started to spike all over again. And now we're open except for a few counties. And it's only going to get worse. People are going to get sick. The hospitals are not going to be able to take the load, just like they couldn't take the load when this all started. And people are going to die because the hospital has to choose who goes on a ventilator. And that's where we are. I'm going to check a few streams. And if you're here and in the chat, please feel free to start bringing questions. We have a lot to cover tonight. Let's just make sure that the stream is showing up on Twitter where it should. And I actually can't tell. No, I can't tell. Great. I know we're on YouTube. Let me just confirm. And yes, we are, in fact, good on YouTube. Excellent. So if you clicked on the YouTube link, and yes, we're working. Yes, we are, in fact. Excellent. So that's one load off my mind. So now that I know that people can actually see and hear me. Coronavirus. Oh yes. And so I'm going to ask folks, how is it just not possible that the people of Florida don't elect Pam Keith to high office to make decisions about their laws? Because you would think that they would love this woman because she just says such amazing things. All right, I'm being sarcastic and I'm going to stop. No, it's not good. Pam Keith, who narrowly lost election in Florida for House of Representatives, tweeted wondering how many people in line at soup kitchens and food closets voted for Trump. And while she rapidly explained that no, I didn't mean to imply that they deserved this for voting for Trump, she's still the same person who said that Joe Biden had a lot of raping to do to catch up with Trump. So I don't extend her great benefit of the doubt. And that just goes to show the attitude that people have about people who need help. And this starts my next little monologue. The simple fact is a lot of people are going to need help, and they're going to need it soon. We're going to need help because as coronavirus gets worse, states are going to shut down again. Now, Joe Biden's coronavirus task force co-chair tells us, oh, no, we don't think there will need to be any national shutdowns, which just goes to show right away that the difference between the parties isn't that much. After all this, listen to scientists. Joe Biden found scientists to tell him he wouldn't have to shut down and he wouldn't have to do anything to help folks, and we could keep sending people to work as usual. So that's where we are. Which means that there are going to be state shutdowns when people start to get sick and the states don't know what else to do. And those state shutdowns are going to put people out of work. Businesses are going to close. There are going to be companies who can let some people work at home, but not everybody. And lots of people are going to need help again. If there's no national shutdown from the Biden administration, there's no reason for Congress to help us, unless governors who shut their states down push Congress hard for them to help us. Now, the two bills that the Democratic House under Speaker Pelosi sent to the Senate had good things in them. A single $1,200 stimulus check in the first one. There would have been the CARES Act. There would have been a second stimulus check in the HEROES Act had the Senate passed it. There were unemployment expansions in the CARES Act that gave people more money if they were out of work because of coronavirus. And those were in the HEROES Act as well. Nobody's going to be getting those anymore because nobody's passed anything to make sure anybody gets them. But people are still going to need help. People are going to need help because 2 restaurants downtown here in Tigard, Oregon closed. Why'd they close? Because even when they open things up and let people come eat inside again, that did not change the fact that nobody really wants to go to restaurants right now. And can you blame them as people get sick again? I can't. So the restaurants are going to keep closing. The people who own them are going to need help. The people who work at them are going to need help. And our Congress is going to have to do something. We know what the House will do. They'll do the bare minimum that they feel they can do and say they're still helping us, while sneaking in something like loans for Paul Pelosi and Christine Eady-Mann and bailouts for their lobbyist friends. I'm just basing all that on the CARES Act and the HEROES Act and things that already happened, right? So, with that in mind, people are really going to need to call their congressperson and tell them you need help. You're going to want to call your senator and tell them you need help. And that's what's hopefully going to make something happen, is if we actually say we need it. The donors aren't going to do anything to help us. They've given up. The people in Congress will only help us if they have to keep their jobs, and a bunch of them, the election's over. There's nothing we can do to push there now. Which brings us to the Senate, which is going to have every incentive to block Joe Biden if it's a Republican Senate. And Joe Biden is not someone who's in a hurry to help us, but he's now going to be able to use a Republican Senate as an excuse unless Democrats win in Georgia and pull off a miracle. So, Georgia becomes the arbiter of our futures. If Republicans win Georgia, we're not going to help, and Mitch McConnell is the excuse for both Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden. Just like Trump and McConnell were the excuses for Pelosi. Just like Pelosi was the excuse for Mitch. If Ossoff and Warnock win and we have a Democratic Senate, there's one less excuse. Joe has everything. He's got to push through some kind of help, the same way Obama. Oh, Biden. Ha. They say a Freudian slip is when you say one thing but mean your mother. Anyway, Obama gave us an economic bailout, such as it was, because he didn't have any excuse not to. And he gave us the ACA, such as it was, because he didn't have any excuse not to. But now that's not the case. Now they're going to be able to hide the way they've been able to hide while Trump was president. And if they can hide, then we're not going to get help. And if we're not going to get help, we're going to help each other. My friend Rachel Kahn, who you can all follow at Reach Rachel Kahn on Twitter, says that the one thing we should all remember is that potatoes are nutritionally complete and can be grown in buckets even if you live in an apartment. And I'm thinking that there's a lot worse advice than that right now. So listen to Rachel and grow potatoes in buckets. You're going to need them. Now I'm going to try not to be so doomer. I still don't seem to be getting anything in the chat. And since I don't seem to be getting anything in the chat, I'm going to have to keep talking. Sorry, folks. So I said I'd talk about Biden, and I have some with coronavirus. And I do have a few predictions for a Biden administration, assuming that we get the Democratic Senate. If we don't, if the Democrats lose in Georgia, then we're going to see a lot of noise and a lot of blaming Mitch McConnell, and nothing much else is going to happen. But this is all based on assuming the Democrats win the runoffs in Georgia in January. Big assumption, but let's go for it. We will get a coronavirus plan, and that coronavirus plan will include some sort of stimulus, and it probably won't be enough. It will probably not be the kind of recurring checks that Rashida Tlaib was trying to push for, that there is a bill in Congress that was co-sponsored by people like Ro Khanna and Ilhan Omar to give that $2,000 a month. That's not going anywhere. It has not even come out of committee under Pelosi's recent speakership, so I don't see that changing in the new Congress. But I see something passing because they'll have to. Something along the lines of the HEROES or the CARES Act Take 3. They'll probably call it the Superheroes Act and include a bailout for Disney. But it will give people some more money. It will keep the unemployment going. Hopefully it will close down some of the barriers to unemployment so that people can have some money and keep paying their rent. While we're still on that subject of coronavirus, I want to give a shout out to no Ameren shutoffs in Illinois. And I want to note that J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois, is a scumbag who is still not issued a strong enough moratorium on utility shutoffs in his state to prevent utility companies from shutting people off. That is a de facto eviction, and in a time of plague, a de facto eviction is a de facto death sentence or a serious risk of getting sick and an increase of public health problems. Oh, Illinois' curve is really shooting up again. It was even before the new round. I wonder why. Blame JB. The second thing we'll probably see under a Biden administration, sorry for the segue, is an ACA expansion or an ACA reform. It will give us, it will give more people subsidies. They will try to give more people Medicaid. They will try to paper over the worst premium and deductible problems with the system as it exists right now. It will probably help some people the same way that the ACA helped people when it passed. It helped me. I will admit that here in Oregon, after we moved, when I had my first job and could not qualify through health care through my first job because it was too expensive, couldn't take it out of my check, I got on the Oregon Health Plan because of Medicaid and the Medicaid expansion, and I was glad to be on the Oregon Health Plan. I wish people in Texas had that ability to get Medicaid. I really do. With the same level as the people in the rest of the country, because that Medicaid expansion was the best thing in the ACA. Further Medicaid expansion will be the best thing in Joe Biden's expansion of the ACA. The real question is will it get to all the people who need it? Will states block it again? You would like to think that governors would not block a widening of state health services during a plague. But when austerity Andy Cuomo in New York cut Medicaid spending during the first round of coronavirus, you really can't rely on governors to do the right thing, can you? It's frustrating. It's frustrating because you would think now more than anything we would need leaders capable of doing the right thing. And instead we have paralyzed leadership that does not appear to have the will to act. They want excuses. They want people to hide behind. Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi are going to be hiding behind Mitch McConnell. This is possible because Amy McGrath lost, which is possible because despite taking in $70 million in donations during the election cycle, Amy McGrath couldn't hire consultants who couldn't convince her not to run as a Trump Democrat when the whole point of running against Mitch McConnell was a referendum against Trump. But no, there wasn't one consultant in all of Amy McGrath's campaign who didn't speak up and say, hey, maybe you should run against Trump. And because of that, Mitch McConnell is going to lead the Republicans in the Senate. And he's going to be the majority leader if the Georgia Republicans are reelected. These Georgia Republicans are not nice people. David Perdue, and I hate to sound like I'm defending Kamala Harris. I'm not a Kamala Harris fan, but David Perdue's deliberate and racist mangling of her name only goes to show that he's childish and not fit to be a senator, regardless of what one thinks of Kamala Harris. He's a racist scumbag. Kelly Loeffler is guilty of insider trading. The Senate should discipline her. She should be charged. But the evidence is all spelled out. In my opinion, if they went to jury tomorrow, she gets convicted. So you say, yeah, she's probably guilty. Is that enough to stop her from getting reelected in Georgia? That's a good question. It should. In a perfect world, it would. Raphael Warnock seems like he may not be coming out and full-throatedly running on Medicare for all. He's not taking a big dump on it the way John Ossoff did. And he says he loves puppies. So he should be able to beat Loeffler, right? You would think. I guess we'll see about that. But if anybody deserves to lose, it's Kelly Loeffler. Now, it looks like I've got to probably fill about 5 or so minutes of time with talking in order to get a half an hour in here, which, with nothing happening in the chat, a half hour looks like a good first night. So I will close out with some thoughts on Joe Biden himself and where we are. And that is that Joe Biden began his political career in the Senate by forcefully advocating for the end of mandatory busing. At a time when people had been stepping up to fight against racism and discrimination and segregation, a fight that Joe Biden had said he supported. Hey, it's great to see you. I'm glad someone showed up before this was over. Joe Biden really isn't the person to step up now and lead us in a fight for human dignity against racism and capitalism and imperialism. He's someone whose political career was supposedly built on pushing back against racism. He was elected to his county board of supervisors in Delaware fighting segregation. But then once he was senator, he folded and surrendered to it because it was the easiest thing to do. And one of the issues that wasn't talked about as much as it should have been during the Amy Coney Barrett hearings was that Amy Coney Barrett may think Brown v. Board of Education was decided wrongly, and that we should go back to the kind of de jure segregation that we had in the Jim Crow days before Brown v. Board. It should have been talked about more because it's a serious thing. What we should also talk about more, because it's a serious thing, is that on a de facto, for real, in the real world level, then I would have to say, Biden's not the guy for the times. He's someone who essentially got rid of Brown v. Board of Education. And that's really something to think about. Now this is a good point. This is a really good point. This is something that lots of people talk about on Twitter. Do people really want to win? Are they really as stupid as they seem? It's hard to say. If you were trying to make the argument that the Democrats want to lose, then running Ossoff again after he lost a congressional race, only for the Senate on a bigger scale, sort of makes it look like maybe they're not running someone they think could win. I know she didn't step up, and I'm not a Stacey Abrams booster, though she's done a good job in getting people out to vote. But if you really were serious about wanting to win one of those Senate races, wouldn't you have run Stacey Abrams in the first place instead of John Ossoff? Wouldn't you have pushed her to run? So I kind of think that Lock on Stocks is right, and that maybe the DNC doesn't want to win those races. Maybe they would rather have people to hide behind. And this is true too. If you ask a liberal if they would believe Trump would change for his second term, they would absolutely say no way. But they want us to believe that Biden has changed after 48 years. That's a good point. I was talking about that. Is Joe Biden still the guy who ended school desegregation in this country? I think that's the best question to leave everybody with tonight. Not that I want to depress people. But is Joe Biden the same guy who said he didn't want his kids going to school in a racial jungle because a misbegotten plan to force integration of the schools went badly awry? And who was willing to shut it all down in order to risk it not going badly awry and leave us in the untenable situation we are today, where even those public schools segregated are going away because of pressures to privatize them. So there's the question. That's where we'll end for tonight. Has Joe Biden changed in 48 years? And do we have any reason to believe that he will between now and Inauguration Day? Everybody, I'm Chris Richards, the Eclectic Radical, and I hope you all have a great night. Thanks for joining my first live stream. Take care.